I went to school in 1950s, 60s, early 70s. And I remember there was a time when the science was taught, it was so buttoned up. It was so perfect. It's like, this is the way it is. And there was no question. And now the new discoveries are actually opening the door to deeper questions than answering definitively many of the questions of the past. And that tells us that we're on the precipice, we're on the verge of a very, very different way of thinking, a new paradigm. And we're being forced to do it because of where we are in the world right now. The world is pushing us to the very edge of who we believe we are. And the old solutions based on the old ideas aren't working. And that's creating the opening for the new ideas.
Let's face a simple fact here that right now, civilization is facing the sixth mass extinction of life on this planet. Now, 5 times in history, life was thriving, and some event essentially wiped out 79% of life. Today, we're in those numbers right now, and what's more important about it is science has recognized that it's human behavior that is responsible for the extinction that will actually do us in. And the significance about that is very simple. It says if you want to survive, then you cannot keep doing what we've been doing. So the old stories are actually the problem, and Einstein's quote, you can't solve the problems with the same thinking that created the problems. And unfortunately, you and I have been at the leading edge of a new science and a new understanding of the world. And it's been really great to lecture with you and to go out because instead of lecturing to our former colleagues, it's really taking the message and talking to the public, because the public is the one that really needs this information. Knowledge is power. Lack of knowledge is a lack of power. And the knowledge that they've been operating from on the basic science that we always thought that was truth turns out to be flawed. So much flawed that that's why we're creating our own extinction, because our belief systems are flawed. And now we have the opportunity to go out and talk to the public and offer them a more empowering understanding of life than the conventional belief that we're just victims of circumstances.
So you and I are both scientists, and I think this is why we received the invitation in the way that we did. You're a life scientist, biologist. I'm an earth scientist, a geologist by degree. And from our unique perspectives, although they're very different sciences, it's hard to draw a line from one to the other because they're so interrelated. Both of them are involved with cycles of time, cycles of experience. And you're talking to me about a cycle, the extinction cycle that you're talking about right now.
Yeah, and it's really important that you brought up the fact that while earth science and life sciences are coming together here, the idea of a separation, which was some sense based on a Newtonian physics, that there's a material existence and an energy existence and they don't relate to each other. Well, that's gone by the wayside because quantum mechanics revealed there's only one thing, it's energy, and everything is interconnected.
What you're saying about the past is true in the present moment. It's happening to us right now. We are living this rare convergence, and I've talked about in this series, this convergence of natural rhythms and natural cycles, any one of which in and of themselves would be enough to change the way we think and live. But the fact that at least 3 of these cycles are converging, the climate cycle, economic cycles, and cycles of human conflict, they're all converging right now. They're creating the conditions that you're talking about that drive evolution. So the changes that are being forced upon us in the world, our world is changing. We can't stop that. We've got to either think and live differently or resist that change, and that's where the struggle comes from.
Well, I think resisting is futile in this particular case. The Earth is a lot bigger than we are on this, and while we have certainly put our hand in the system and messed it up a bit, the Earth is trying to get us to come back. It's giving us these lessons. It says, if you don't learn to live in harmony, then you won't be here either, because extinction is going to affect all of us. And we're not talking 1,000 years from now. We're talking within a century. And so it really is important for people to wake up and say, what have we done and why have we done it? And is there a better way to do it? And this is why I enjoy our collaboration, because we offer answers to those very vital questions. I was a teacher, a professor in a medical school, teaching the old science and living the old science. And my lessons came not from textbooks or anything, they came directly from cells. I was cloning stem cells 52 years ago now. But the relevance about that is by studying the cells, I really learned another way of life. They taught me. And the relevance about that is when I applied it, my life completely changed. So I let go of the concept that we're victims of our genetics, let's say, or victims of world changes and all that, that we are actually creators. And this is really the principle that quantum physics leaves us with. It recognizes that mind is really the source of all of this creation. And if we don't like the creation, then rather than going out and changing the creation, we really have to go back inside and change the mind. And this is all empowering, because it means that an individual doesn't have to go out and fight the world. They just have to learn how to change their consciousness to accommodate a better, healthier life.